Hi, my name is William Pawlak. I will be talking to you today of the reforms within the Ottoman Empire from the years 1800 to 1914. We will begin with the French invasion of Egypt in 1798 because that's where this whole process started. And let's begin. Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Egypt with the purpose of intercepting British communications with India. This might not have been the best campaign to do that, but he did it nevertheless. Uh, the response of the Ottoman government was little. It could not afford to send troops down the peninsula to counter Napoleon. So the brunt of the fighting was between the French troops and the Mamluk horsemen. The horsemen could not match the fighting machine of Napoleon's army, and Bonaparte was able to score many, many victories. If not for the British Royal Navy, he probably wouldn't have won the campaign. Uh, the French invasion, however, inspired the future Sultan of Egypt, Mehemet Ali, to have a similar army of his own in order to protect Egypt from European aggression and, as we will later see, from the Ottoman government. To fund this army, he began a war against the wealthy landowners of Egypt. Quite frankly, he would invite the wealthiest landowners to his palace and kill them upon arrival and exile the others. He would do the same for religious endowments, and he used the funds to create his army. Now, his army was the best army within the Ottoman Empire. It had infantry, it had artillery, it had cavalry, it even had a navy. That's how good it was. So, but the most important change that Muhammad Ali initiated was the introduction of cash crops, especially cotton. Cotton was a very valuable product in Europe because it fueled the industrialist movement of Britain with its textile industry. Britain increasingly relied on U.S. cotton to fuel its industrialist movement. However, during the U.S. Civil War, this could not happen, and Europe needed another supplier of cotton. Egypt was the supplier, and it gained massive amounts of wealth because of it. It used this wealth to begin a broad modernization program in which it redesigned city streets, sewage, it built railways, canals, and even an opera house. But Egypt soon realized that it was relying on European loans more than on the sales of cotton. So when the Civil War ended in 1865 and European creditors wanted their money back, Egypt did not have it. So Europe was forced to form the organization known as La Casa de Dette, which was basically an organization composed of British, French, Russian officials, any country that Egypt owed money to, which would organize Egypt's debt and pay back the European creditors. This was a humiliation for the Egyptian population. They did not want a foreign power sucking the wealth out of their country, so unsurprisingly, there was a military revolt led by a certain Colonel Urabi. This revolt ended when the British Royal Navy appeared in 1882 and Britain took over Egypt and added it to its empire. The British possession of Egypt will be very, very vital for the Arab Revolt in 1916. However, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves and we will go back to the Ottoman Empire now. So, what the French invasion of Egypt was for Egypt was the Greek rebellion for the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire lacked the finances and the troop strength to put down the rebellion. So actually, it turned to Egypt for help. It knew of Ali's army and it made a deal with Ali, stating that if he sent troops to Greece, he would gain Syria. Ali took the deal very, very quickly and sent his troops to Greece. However, as we all know, at the Battle of Navarino, the European troops beat both the Ottomans and the Egyptians. However, deal was a deal, and Syria now belonged to Mehemet Ali. However, when Ali posted Egyptian troops there, the Ottoman government protested. They did not want this military force to threaten its empire. When this happened, Ali actually invaded Turkey. It marched its own troops to Constantinople. The Ottoman government initially did not know what to do. It first tried to ally itself with Russia, but then later England offered its services after closely monitoring the situation and preventing Russia from taking the offer. Uh, it was only until the 1840s that Egyptian troops were finally out of Syria. However, this was another humiliation for the Ottoman Empire. To rely on a European, no less Christian nation to put down an internal rebellion was humiliating. So, like Ali, the Ottoman government began a program of military reform. To do this, they once again tried to break the monopoly of wealthy landowners, but most crucially began the formation of a group of young men known as the Young Turks. Now, the Young Turks were basically the sons of the wealthiest families within the Ottoman Empire who traveled to Europe to study European military structures and politics. The Ottoman government followed an isolation policy very rigidly during the 1700s and could not adequately keep up with European styles of warfare and politics. So they sent their sons to do it. So the sons studied and they, in a sense, adopted these European institutions and these ideologies. And they came back to the Ottoman Empire disgruntled and dissatisfied with their position. They were educated, young, ambitious men who wanted change, and they were going to use their military power to do it. This culminated in the 1908 rebellion against the Sultan Abdul Hamid II, who ousted him from power. Now, Abdul Hamid was a moderate. He wanted to enact the nationalist policies and the military reforms of the Young Turks, but he also wanted the support of the Ulama, a society of Islamic teachers who were sworn enemies of the Young Turks. So, in order to do this, Abdul Hamid wanted to produce a national identity, an identity of Islam. This was very popular with the ulama and with the overall population as a whole. However, the Young Turks highly opposed this. They did not want any accommodations to be made. They wanted a separation of church and state. So that's why they initiated this rebellion. And it succeeded because, as we already know, the Young Turks were more prominent in the army than anywhere else in the Ottoman Empire. Now, then we begin to the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire. We go back to Egypt